It's about that time of day again. My name is Joseph. Monday evening, March the 12th. Welcome back to your nightly newsletter. We're covering crude oil, S&P, Nasdaq, gold, and euro this evening. Crude is bearish, but trying to turn bullish tonight after a measured move completely snuffed out momentum for the bears this afternoon. And I've got my eye on a seller failure down below the moving average for a nice buying opportunity tomorrow morning. S&P is bearish as much as I want it to be bullish right now, right? We had that big run on Friday for the S&P, but I'll talk more about it as we go, but S&P is bearish. There's a triangle pattern on the Emini tonight on the S&P, and that tells me, as always, to look for selling opportunities up above the highs using buyer failures tomorrow morning. Nasdaq, on the other hand, is quite bullish. There's no shortage of buyers right now in the Nasdaq right now. Beautiful spike in channel pattern, possibly a spike in range, depending on potato, how you look at the chart tonight. And this tells me to look for traps down near the lows, but my plan ultimately in the Nasdaq is I'm looking for a shakeout to the downside tomorrow morning for some great seller failures and a rocket back up. Make sure you stay tuned for the Nasdaq chart. We'll talk about that in a second. Gold is bullish with a late session reversal. We talked about this morning in our trade room. Gold finished the session back up to highs here, and of course that tells me to look for buying opportunities. I have a hidden channel on my radar tomorrow for all you gold bugs out there. Stay tuned for more on that. And of course, how about the euro? The euro is bearish with a beautiful spike in range pattern. That tells me to focus on buyer failures tomorrow for selling opportunities going back down to retest that low. Boy, we're back here. I'm broadcasting on daylight savings time now. I might be coming to you an hour early, right, depending on whether or not you adjusted your clocks here. But we survived another daylight savings time shift. We're back here for another big week of learning and earning opportunities on this nightly newsletter. I got a great video in store for you guys and gals. We got some big, strong trends. We got some not so big, strong trends. And I'm going to put the plan together for Tuesday's session in just a moment. Before we jump in, though, and put those charts together, if you're watching here on YouTube this evening, I want to remind you, you can find a detailed description of the entire strategy from tonight's video on my blog here at sidewaysmarkets.com. I'll leave all the links in the description of the video on YouTube. Also on YouTube, if you have any questions about anything covered in this video, please remember to post them in the comments section. And if you like what you see on YouTube, please help support this channel by subscribing and make sure you hit that bell icon so you get notified every time I post another video. And if you really want to stay in tune, if you never want to miss another great piece of information from schooloftrade.com, don't forget, head over here to the blog at sidewaysmarkets.com. This is our official trading blog, and then make sure you join our mailing list. Join that mailing list. I'll send you an email anytime something new happens here at SOT. And also, don't forget, I'm always posting exclusive charts, links, and updates throughout the week. You won't find them anywhere else on my channel here. You can just find them on my social media feed, right? Follow me on social lower left-hand corner. And if you want more charts, speaking of charts, all the charts from tonight's video, right? So rather than trying to write everything down while I'm doing it here tonight on the video, why not just grab those charts and use them tomorrow, right? All the charts from tonight's, right? All the charts from tonight's video, you can download those right below that video on our blog at Sideways Markets. And then speaking of tomorrow, right? Speaking of tomorrow, why not come out and join me tomorrow as a guest in the trade room? Upper right-hand corner, grab that free pass. If you're not a member here at School of Trade, you're going to learn more with me about this strategy than you will anywhere else on the interwebs. I can guarantee you that. Grab that free pass in the upper right-hand corner, and I will see you tomorrow as a guest in the trade room. All right, let's jump right in. Got a lot to cover here tonight. So again, depending on whether or not you're inside or outside the U.S. or whether or not you kind of follow daylight savings time, but we, of course, had daylight savings time shift on Saturday evening into Sunday. So if you're wondering why this newsletter is coming out so early, I'm not just a go-getter, right? We did move our clocks. We sprung forward, right? So we are, of course, on a slightly different time. As of right now, I'm recording this video right? 5:30 Eastern time right now. So just be aware of that, right? Make sure you're on the right time schedule here if you're not in the U.S. or if you fall into one of those states in the U.S. that doesn't follow daylight savings time. I wish I was one of those states because I'm hurting as of right now. But I'll leave that to myself. Let's jump in. We got tomorrow, Tuesday, March the 13th here. What are we doing? Yeah, it's going to take a few days to kind of recover from the daylight savings time shift. The worst thing is the dogs are barking everywhere. You know, dogs don't know the daylight. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about if you're a pet owner right now, right? You're in worst case scenario mode right now with your dog at home. I'm kidding. Let's jump right in. News for tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern time. 8:30 Eastern time. Get the CPI number tomorrow. That's pretty much the only major news on the calendar. Now, right about now, everyone has their eyes on inflation, right? Inflation is a big concern of the Fed. The Fed needs to know, should they remove the punch bowl, right? Should they start buying stuff back, right? Buying back their bonds, right? Taking money out of the money supply, right? Consumer prices will tell us that tomorrow. Obviously, I'm not going to be trading the news, but do expect, right, that news to shake things up tomorrow and possibly lead to some trend reversals, which we have on our radar setting up for tomorrow. That's the only major news in tomorrow's session. I do also want to remind you, too, that as we go later in the week, right? Remember, this is the 1, 2, 3, third month of the year, and this will be the 1, 2, 3, third Friday of the third month of the year, right? Now, if you take my beginner classes, you know this is called quadruple witching, right? Quad witching, it happens 4 times a year, every 3 months on the third Friday. Well, this one, the first one of the year is this Friday. Okay, now this doesn't mean much right now, but as we go later in the week, we're going to start seeing more of that quad witching impact us. So make sure you come back, right, and see me for the rest of the week here. That way you stay up to date on what the plan will be as we go into that quad witching Friday. All right, got to make sure you're ready for that on Friday. For now, though, tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern time is that first news event tomorrow morning. And don't forget, our trade room opens up at 8 o'clock Eastern time, Monday through Friday. So we're going to plan this stuff together, and then we'll trade the plan tomorrow with all of our clients. All right, so now we get the schedule for tomorrow. You know about quad witching later on in the week. Okay, we'll worry about that later on in the week. Now let's jump into some charts. We've got crude oil, S&P. I'm going to do some Nasdaq, right? And we'll go through gold and the euro tonight. We're going to wrap this baby up with a nice big bow on it and have it ready for, right, tomorrow's session, whether you're with me in the trade room or if you're doing it on your own tomorrow morning. Starting off with crude oil. Crude is bearish but ready to turn bullish after sellers slid through the measured move and are now struggling to find momentum to take the price any lower. Knowing this, my plan for tomorrow is to look for selling failures down below the moving average. And if price does go higher in the short term, I'm going to continue looking for a hidden channel and look to buy off that hidden channel. My target for the buy side is back up to 62.33. Targets for the sellers back down to that 60.76. Now, I want to remind you, we talked about this last week, and this is a good example why. I know you guys are busy people just like I am, and I appreciate you being here every evening, but this is a good example of why it's a good idea to kind of keep up with. If you're an active trader, I would come in and at least find the time, right, to watch your favorite market at least every evening, because this is a scenario we talked about last week on the newsletter. And it has to do with the market going through the measured move, right? Now you notice we can see that strong move down, we pull back, we run down to that measured move, and you'll notice, right, kind of the momentum of the market kind of drag that price through the measured move. Now this is important information because the measured move is major support. Okay, well now we go back above the measured move. Nice, beautiful two-legged pullback. Right? And you know what happens anytime we see a strong move in one direction, we then look for a two-legged pullback and a retest of that low. But now think about this. How do we get back to that low? Right? You know, I say this, it's so easy, right? You know, whenever we see a strong move in one direction, we see a two-legged pullback up to resistance and a retest of the low. Like it's just so easy. Well, it is pretty easy unless you see this situation. Remember we talked about this last week, right? In the old boxed in strategy, right? Remember that from last week, the boxed in, right, trading strategy. Go back to my YouTube channel, right? I'll put a link up here for you guys, make it easy on you right there. Well, we talked about what happens, right, when markets get boxed in, right? When markets get boxed in, and when they get boxed in other words, right, sellers can't sell, right, because they're having a hard time getting back down to where they want to go. So this measured move now starts intimidating us. Well, what it really does as sellers is it says, I can't sell here because there isn't enough space for a good target, right? I've got to sell higher. But as the market goes higher, it loses traction and more buyers come in, and we're susceptible to a full trend reversal. Okay, so whether or not you watched that lesson from last week or not, anytime we slip through the measured move and then get back above the measured move, now we have a big problem. We've got to try to get through that measured move before we can go back down to retest that low. Remember, the job number one, right? Job number one for those sellers is to get back down to retest the low. Because if they can't, they're going to lose traction with the bears in the market. You know, think about it, right? If you sold up, right? If you sold way up here, right? And you're thinking, okay, should I stay with it? Should I get out of a trade? Right? When you see the market try once to retest the low, can't, right? Goes up, tries again to retest the low and can't. What are you going to do? Are you going to look at this as a great selling opportunity? Probably not. If it was me, I would say, you know what? I'm going to take whatever profit I have left in my trade. I'm going to get out of this because it looks like the sellers are failing. And that's why when there's not a lot, that's why when there isn't a direct line down to that low a day, right? When the sellers can't reach that low easily, right? And they try once and they try twice, right? After that second attempt, and you see that big wick right there, that's a huge clue, right? That tells me right now that buyers are already starting to sink their teeth into this thing right now because they can smell the despair from those sellers. So a very, very good example when it slides, we see this over and over and over again on most markets. Usually when you get to a measured move, right, you bounce off it and you go right back and do it again, right? But when you see it slide through the measured move, it's going to try to get through it, and if it can't, bam, right, it's open for a reversal. Okay, so how do you play this right now? What's the thing? How do you want to play it? Well, the easy money right now is I want to look for sellers getting in trouble down here. And I know this pattern so well because, yeah, I used to do this all the time when I was a rookie, right? I would wait for a strong move down. I try to sell a pullback down here. The problem though is that again, there's no space, right? There's too much support right there. So my plan is I'm going to look for my 10-year-ago self, right, to come in and try to sell this. Look for that strong move down. Moving average comes over. Bears are going to try, right, to sell down to retest that low, and good luck to them, right? I hope they're successful. That's not my plan. My plan is to look for that failure and then up from there, right off of that failure. And then if that happens, then obviously we have a new potential spike in channel going higher, right? And I'll look to buy the pullback from there. Okay, so that would be the ideal scenario, right? We see them try to go lower, right? They can't quite get their act together down here. They fail. That turns into strength. Strength turns into a pullback, right? And pullbacks lead to new highs, right? That broken record we talked about from last week. Now, what if price keeps going higher, right? What if price keeps going higher? Hopefully it does. You know, hopefully this thing runs higher in the overnight, right? It removes any confusion whatsoever. You know, because right now, you know, in all reality, right now, we really haven't seen that strength yet, have we? You know, if you watch my newsletter religiously every evening, you know, right? I always look for that strength, pullback, strength. Well, we got a strong move up. We got a pullback. We haven't really seen that strength yet, right? So if we could get that nice strong move higher here, that would really do a lot for the confidence level of the bulls, and it would really tell the bears just to get the heck out of the way. Well, if I can do that, we're going to line up those highs, bring it up off that low, right, and try to grab that short-term, right, that short-term buying opportunity here, right, off of that hidden channel. Now, this could look in a bunch of different ways. The key, though, is if we do see it run higher here, once it pulls back, grab those two highs, bring it up, and now you know where to be looking for your pullbacks, for your traps, for your failures, and then hopefully some strength going back up to retest the high. What if price keeps going sideways here tomorrow? We know if price goes down, we know if price goes up. What if price goes sideways? What's the plan then? Well, you'll notice there is that reversal line there at 38, so it's possible we go sideways. If we go sideways here, that doesn't change the fact that there's not much space down here. So now the only difference, though, is if we aren't seeing these buyers able to run and we're not seeing a pullback, then we go sideways, double top, double bottom. We look for that 2-try rule, right? Look to buy the 2-try, basically buy the second try failure, right, from those bears, or the old fake out, breakout, pullback, right? Get the moving average up, strong breakout, 2-legged pullback, and go from there, right? That may also line up as, right, a hidden channel there as well. So keep that in mind. Now, what about the sell side? I don't want you to think about I've forgotten about the sell side. The problem with the sell side right now, though, is that I've literally got to get back to that low to really have any confidence here, because I shouldn't say that. I got to see some strength. We have to see some significant strength going lower here, because I have to know that buyers aren't going to be trying to get all over this thing, right? Because if this thing just kind of moseys its way lower here, I have a funny feeling buyers, after seeing that big wick right there, I have a funny feeling buyers are looking for traps. They're locked and loaded down below that low. So I'm going to have to see it strong move down, real strong move down, and then because we're limited space down here, traps. Right? Traps, focusing on selling high, right? If we see a real strong move down here, that's going to be the key, right? Going lower. If it does go lower tomorrow, this may turn into a spike in channel. So watch this, right? If it does go lower, watch for a bounce. We may end up selling. This obviously would be tomorrow morning, right? Late tomorrow morning, right? Selling up around that high. So watch for a possible, right, spike in channel, especially if we see this market run lower, right, and then kind of get kicked back, right? Look for that spike in channel, and we can sell off of that high. All right, guys? So we're setting up for a lot of different scenarios tomorrow. I know I've covered a lot. Don't forget, I'm going to trade this strategy right there with you tomorrow. Come join me in the trade room, and we'll do it together. You don't need to go out this alone out there. Now, how about some S&P? The S&P looks like dog crap right now. It really, you could tell today. You could really feel today. I'll tell you what it felt like. The market today felt as disinterested or uninterested or whatever the opposite of being interested in, right? This S&P today felt like a kid sitting in church, right? He didn't want to be there, right? He would do everything to get the heck out of here, right? Kicking and screaming. The S&P did not look like it wanted to go to work today, right? I don't know what happened. Maybe it was last Friday's big run, right? But this thing was an ugly, sloppy, choppy market today, and it ended right in the middle of a range. So S&P is bearish, but trading with a triangle or a range, this is telling me that sellers took control today, but they weren't able to get that much accomplished to the downside. We have a bear channel to start the session. Okay, follow the bouncing ball right now. The session starts off with a bear channel, but most channels will easily two-legged pullback and retest the low, and we can see that the sellers tried once and tried twice and could not get a retest back to that low, knowing now the sellers had failed. Okay, here we are now. The buyers had a clear opportunity to take full control shortly after 2 p.m. Eastern time. Right there. Right? Shortly after 2 p.m. Eastern, right around 1500 EST. Okay, buyers now have a beautiful opportunity to take control. Look at this thing. It spikes higher, gorgeous run. Surely this is going to be a bull run. Right back to Friday or back to Monday's high, Sunday night's high, right? But even after such a strong move higher, nobody shows up. Nobody comes in to buy the pullback. There was like 3 people that offered to buy that, right? Nobody shows up. So even after such a strong bull run on Friday, right, a failed attempt to retest the low from the sellers, right? Sellers are gasping for air trying to go lower. The buyers just aren't even showing up in this market right now. So I have to stick to the sell side. Believe me, right? Believe me, it does not take a very strong chartist to look left at this market and say, I think we might be bullish, right? I mean, come on. If you saw Friday's move higher, right, you're thinking, I don't believe this, right? How is this market going sideways right now? Why didn't it go back to retest the high? I don't know either, right? And I really don't care why, right? As of right now, right, we get a bear market. I want it to be bullish. Believe me, I do. But the charts just simply don't tell me, right, we're a bull market. Not for day trading. Right? If you're a long-term pullback buyer on this, absolutely, right? You can argue with me and say, no. On a daily chart, this is a pullback, buy it. Absolutely. That's not my style. It's not my strategy, right? My strategy is an intraday trader. And when an intraday trader looks at a chart, we have to look at what's happening right now. If I get caught up with what happened last week, I mean, how many times do we see a strong move up on a daily chart and then we see a full down couple days here, right? As a day trader, I want to make money on those down days, right? I'm not going to sit here and just wait for it to then start to pull back up, right? Again, as a swing trader, sure, this is a buying opportunity, right? But as a day trader, it's not, right? Today, the bears had control. So the bears in control, trading range or triangle on the chart, my plan is pretty simple, right? Look for selling opportunities up above the high of that range using buyer failures. And if by some act of God, right, if there are trading gods up there somewhere, right, and we do see some interest to the downside, right, I have a measured move waiting for a target as the runner. I have a funny feeling tomorrow we're going to see this market wake up here and tell us what it really wants to do right now. But right now we got that strong move down. Bears tried once, bears tried twice, right? Record skips. They can't get back to retest the high. Right, bears clearly bail, right? You can see they clearly bail, right? Runs higher. That's a profit-taking rally, a short covering rally. The buyers say, no thanks. They never even show up, and we sink back down right into the middle of that range. Okay, so my plan is pretty simple. Stay the heck away from selling low. Don't even think about selling into that low because obviously, right, they tried once, they tried twice, they tried 3 stinking times to get that low to work, but apparently nobody was interested, right? You can't be a buyer yet because they literally had that buy pullback on a silver platter, right? One of Bezos' drones dropped it off on the front door and said, here you go, here's your pullback, right? And they left it there, right? Didn't even grab it. Right, so you can definitely tell buyers, for whatever reason, they aren't interested. Maybe the buyers are interested because of this just stupid, insane run. I told you guys last Thursday night, don't be surprised if you get that late day, just kind of low volume rally on the S&P, right? We called that a mile ahead of time, right? And it was low volume, kind of late day, just kind of perma bull, right, move up. So maybe the buyers are waiting for your pullback right now, right? Maybe they're waiting for your pullback. Whatever it is, bears have control. What's the plan tomorrow? The plan is get up and sell it back down. That's all we can do. Up, 1 try, 2 try, failure, back down again. I want to see basically the same thing again, right? I want to see it go up, silver platter for the buyers. Buyers show a little bit of interest. We know where their stops are, right? And we're looking to sell into those stops and then pull back down, right? So you're selling those buyer failures. Okay, the hard part, though, is that as this gets later, this trend line gets higher, right? So the problem now is that we got to be careful selling into that rising support. So if price goes up, it's easy to sell back down. But if price goes down, I can be 1 try, 2 try for a buyer, right? I could look for sellers try once, sellers try twice, and then buy that second try, right? That would be an option. Okay, I'm sure there will be some buyers there long-term looking to buy into that, right? It's an option. It's not going with the trend right now, which is definitely my concern. That'll be a little bit lower probability. What I really want to see is I want to see my kind of definition of what's called a fake out, breakout, pullback, and that is I want to see a strong move down. Then I'm looking for a 1 2-legged pullback. I'd like to use this support as resistance if it's possible, right? And then look for that follow through going down from there. right? I call this the fake out breakout pullback. And the reason why I call it a fake out breakout pullback is because, first of all, it is a breakout, right, of a range. Most breakouts fail. So rather than trying to sell the first pullback, which usually fails and goes back into that range, I wait for the second pullback. Now, the reason for that is because I'm expecting for buyers to be trying to buy this back up. And so I'm trying to play that right against them, going with the trend, obviously, right? Because it's not as reliable being a buyer right now. So that's why I call that kind of the fake out breakout pullback. Get that moving average below that level of support, use it as resistance, two-legged pullback to kind of fool, right, those buyers and those sellers. All right? Now, how do we turn bullish tomorrow? Right? Stay the heck away from the middle, right? We know being a bear, we're going to go up and back down, right? Or down, up, and then back down. Okay, how do we be a buyer tomorrow? Well, as I mentioned earlier, we could go 1 try, 2 try, seller failure, back up in. That will work. It's not my preferred method because it's bearish right now, but that will work. And then, of course, you got the successful breakout, which would be 1 try, right? 2 legs higher. Right? So strong move up. Basically what the buyers should have done here. Right? Strong move up, pulls back to the moving average. If those buyers would have exploded higher there, which they should have, okay? I mean, maybe not should have, but right, that's what is reasonable after seeing the sellers try twice, 3 times and fail so miserably, right? So that's what we want to see tomorrow, right? If I can get a strong move up here tomorrow, you know, let's say strength, pullback, strength, then I can go hunting now for a hidden channel here, and I can look to buy that pullback off that hidden channel, right? Rather than buying as the market runs higher. Does that make sense, right? So that's the plan if price goes higher tomorrow. And honestly, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. Right now, the market's bearish, okay? I know we're bullish in the long term, but again, if you're a long-term trader, you shouldn't be looking at this time frame right now. If you're a long-term trader, you're looking at much slower time frames, right, than this tick chart. All right, guys? So know your strategy, know what you're trading, and use the correct time frame, use the right analysis, right, to give yourself a good fighting chance. Let's keep going. All right? How about some Nasdaq? Now, see, the Nasdaq obviously didn't give back any of this, right? Nasdaq is bullish. Same situation for the S&P, right? And this bull market is what could be described as a spike in channel if you wanted to. I'm going to call this a spike in range, right, with a bull bias. The bulls aren't giving anything back from last Friday's big run higher, right? It might have had something to do with the headlines we saw today that regulators had approved some patents for drone delivery, right? As much as I want those little bzzz all over my neighborhood, right? It is attractive to think that we could take some cars off the road. I think right now, though, the drone delivery is about as realistic as Elon Musk's Hyperloop here in Los Angeles, or whatever that high-speed moving contraption he's dreaming up right now. I love the attitude, right? But we may not be hyperlooping around. We might be hyperlooping around a little bit sooner than we are, getting our morning cereal delivered by drone. But the bottom line is, I assume that's what was keeping this market, right, so lofty here today. So it did diverge, right, from those S&P sellers. The bulls aren't giving anything back, right? We can see they aren't finding many new buyers at new highs, but they aren't pulling back off the high either. And that's causing this market now to turn sideways. This is what a market looks like when the bulls don't take profit, but nobody's willing to keep buying up here, right? You got a couple poor saps, right? A couple people who clearly don't watch my newsletter. They tried to buy up here, right? And they're having some trouble, right, keeping that price towards their entry right now. Who knows? Maybe long term that's a good decision. But again, for a short term trader, buying after you see that strong move up and you see it pull back and fail to high, buying into that high here is a very dangerous trade here. It's probably a range. So anytime I see a trading range, I know the plan is pretty simple. In fact, it's the opposite of what is talked about on the S&P. The bulls have the bias, right, from last Friday. This hasn't turned bearish yet. That's the key difference, right? The S&P turned bearish. The Nasdaq, we're still bullish, right? In fact, it was a pretty quiet day overall. So I want to look for buying opportunities using failures below the range tomorrow, or if we do go higher, I've got that measured move right there. I'm going to want to see some good strength, right, going higher here tomorrow if we're going to be buying going higher here, right? So I'm not trying to buy high on the Nasdaq right now. Another thing I'm watching for tomorrow is a possible sharp correction off of these highs, which will have a goal of kind of shaking out, right? Kind of like a shakeout, right? Or shaking out the buyers with those trailing stops, right? And basically forcing them to get back into their positions. Knowing this, don't be too quick to call a reversal if we see a shakeout to the downside tomorrow morning, because it might just be a big trap. So as we go higher here, let me draw this out real quickly here. As we go higher here in the Nasdaq, right, that big run up on Friday. Well, now here we are. We're not pulling back. We're not pulling back. We're not pulling back. You know, we're stable, right? We're seeing slightly higher highs, slightly higher highs. You know, this is nothing you can really be confident buying high with right now. It's basically a channel. Okay, it's basically either a spiking channel, right, or it's a range, right? Don't want to buy high, want to buy low. Well, here's what you got to remember. The Nasdaq is not a very liquid market overall, right? Compared to the S&P, right? The Nasdaq is such a small amount of volume, right? That's why it moves so crazy. Okay, it's one of the most illiquid markets on the planet. It really is, right? It's why it moves so violently. Now, with that said, there are only so many buyers that are up here buying, right? And what happens is once all the buyers get in up here, right? And again, I don't want to say foolish buyers, but you know, this is you're buying high, right? I don't want to say foolish because I might look like the moron, right, by not buying here. If we come out tomorrow and all of a sudden the drone delivery is happening, right, and we're going 1,000 points higher. So I'm not going to say it's foolish, but I'm going to say it's a lower probability short-term trade. Long-term positions, you get your own strategy for that. Eventually, though, up at these highs, you're going to start running low on ammunition, right? There are only so many buyers that are willing to buy up here. Now, what happens when there's not enough buyers to keep buying, right? When there's no buyers to keep buying, in comparison, there's more sellers, right? So the buyers start running out of momentum, and just by a simple comparison now, there are more sellers in the market. Okay, at the same time, the longer we take to go higher, the more buyers get impatient. Okay, they start taking some profit, and price oftentimes pulls back really sharp, especially since that move on Friday was such a strong, well, not strong, but kind of grind up, right? It was a low volume, kind of a melt higher, right? A lot of people getting out of short positions and causing that market to really run, right, on a real low volume environment. What that means is there are a lot of people here who are probably eyeing these areas back here, right, where they're waiting for price to pull back. So the market may pull back really sharp, right, because there's not a lot of liquidity in this market. And when the buyers bail, the buyers are going to bail fast, right? They're not going to hold on to it through that sharp pullback. Now, what that will do is anybody who's keeping their stops really tight right now, right? Anyone who's using a trailer, right, below that low, they're going to get stopped out. Okay? So buyers who are already in are forced to the sidelines. Okay? Follow me here. The next thing is the moving average will come over, and sellers are unlikely going to see this as a possible reversal, and they're going to try to sell that pullback. Now, this is not a bear market. So that pullback is not a reliable setup yet for the bears. If they can hold that pullback, then it becomes a reliable move to the downside, just like we saw in the S&P. We're not there yet, though. So now I want you to think about what happens if we get a nice move off of that moving average, but we don't see that explosiveness, right, going lower. Right? Now what happens? At this point now we've got all kinds of people interested in that market going higher. Right? If we go higher now, what happens? The sellers who tried to call the reversal, they're getting stopped out. Sellers now become buyers. Make sense? Now what else is happening? Right? All the people who got stopped out of this move, right, on the pullback, remember all the trailers, all the buyers that got forced to the sidelines, now what? Yeah, now they're saying, shoot, I missed it. I got to get back in. And they're going to get back in now. So that shakeout, more of the story is, don't let this shakeout, right, fool you into thinking this is a reversal. Okay, I realize the S&P is bearish, but that doesn't mean the Nasdaq's going to be bearish as well. Okay, those correlations are not reliable enough, not in today's market. Okay, so watch that shakeout because you get a lot of people, right, who are incentivized to participate. Okay, so there's that big move, right? There's that big move up, right? Big move up. Look at it's low volume because it never pulled back to the moving average, right? So right now, good example, right? So they run some stops. Look at how fast that stop run goes right back to that high. What that is those are buyers with their trailing stop too tight. They get stopped out. They see they're on the wrong side of it now, and they get to jump back in and get in. Or it's disciplined traders, right, like people in my trade room who see this as being a bull market. They see that double top, and they say, oh, this is a range now. I know how to trade ranges. You trade off the low, right? You don't trade off the high. Okay, so shakeout, right? Strong move down. Moving average comes over. Sellers try to come in. They try. They fail. Strength, pullback, back up. That would be ideal, right, tomorrow morning, right? Get it low. Get it low. I don't care how low it goes, right? I don't care if it runs lower here overnight, almost half a mile, right? It all depends on what do they do when they come back to that moving average, right? Don't get suckered into that move off this high, right? Because again, it will usually end up being, right, a sell too low, and you'll find yourself pulling back to the moving average, wishing you would have waited, right, to go back up, right, to retest the high. So that will be the ideal scenario for tomorrow. The hard part here is if price goes higher, right? They failed to retest the high here, failed to push higher here, failing to push higher here. Now, maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this thing jumps higher here. But as of right now, we don't have enough evidence to know that's the case. What we do know, though, is one try, fail, 3 times those buyers tried to push higher, and nobody was taking the bait. So what I'll look for now is a strong move up, right? It'll have to be really, really strong. When it pulls back, let's try to use those highs, line that up, right? And that will give me my level of support, right, to be a buyer. You'll notice I don't even want to think about being a buyer up here. Okay, because again, all of these look very convincing. That looked very convincing. That looked very convincing. They always look really convincing when they go higher like that, right? You can't add indicators on your chart to make you tell which one's going to keep going higher, right? Because oscillators, MACD, momentum, RSI, stochastics, right? If you put an oscillator on here, go ahead, right? Go ahead, put an oscillator down here, right? Mark up your overbought, mark up your oversold, and I can guarantee you I know what that oscillator looks like. When it goes higher here, it's going to be right up there, isn't it? Overbought, overbought, overbought. The problem is when a market runs this much in one day, right, we can't call it bearish, but every momentum indicator you use is going to say overbought, overbought, overbought. And what are you going to do? Just not participate? That's the point, right? So be very careful, right? Be very careful using momentum in these areas because the problem I have with momentum indicators is that when you need them the most, they are at the most unreliable, right? I need momentum to tell me when the trend is changing, when the trend is overbought, oversold. The problem, though, is a big, strong move, and this thing's overbought already, right? It's worthless at that point. I'm not going to sell it. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox, but that's the point, right? Stay away from that high because it's unreliable, right? You don't have enough confirmation, and I want you guys to be successful so you can come out and join me every day in the trade room, right, and make some real money, right? So that's my incentive, right? Getting you guys on the right track, right, so you guys will grow your account and can see some good success, all right? So now, over to the gold, right? Gold is bullish. Beautiful. What a beautiful chart here on the gold, right? It looks like a carnival ride, right? All kinds of different colors and things going on here. Gold is bullish with a strong spike higher to finish today's session back inside the range where we started. Boy, if you're a client of mine in the trade room, we came out this morning at 8 o'clock Eastern time. The first thing I said this morning on gold was, man, this feels like reversal. And it definitely did. It definitely did. It took a little bit longer than I would have wanted to, but we got that reversal, didn't we, guys? The bulls have a nice move higher, right? And my goal for tomorrow is to use this hidden channel to buy a pullback to support with a target going back up to retest the high. Another thing to keep in mind is this trading range. Okay, that was the big clue today on gold, right? The day started off inside of a range. And that told me, right, or that trading range tells me to beware chasing this move and stay patient to buy pullbacks if price does keep running higher. Now, this is about as easy as it gets, right? It really is. Okay, we saw a strong move down. The bears tried once to retest the low. They tried twice to retest the low. And right, once we saw that big move higher this morning, right, it was late in the morning this morning, you pretty much knew the bears were done, right? Remember, anytime we see a strong move in one direction, give them 2 tries. 1 try, 2 try. Their only job is to retest that low. That's their only job, and they couldn't get it done, right? 1 try down, 2 try down. Yep, once we see this strong move, we're done, right? We're done. 2 try rule in all its glory. Once you have that, right, at this point now, you're drawing it like that, right? And look at that buy off of that low. Okay, so now we have the reversal. Okay, repeat after me. Anytime I see a trend reversal, I look for a hidden channel. It's remarkably simple. Okay, anytime I see a reversal, okay, I'm not going to be able to draw the channel like this, guys. Right? You won't be able to draw the channel like that. It doesn't fit, right? So forget about this support trend line. That support trend is still valid, but draw the channel off the high, right? Because now that strong move higher says bulls have it. Well, we knew the bulls had it earlier on in the session, but now bring them together, right? Bring them together. Bingo, right back off that low. That's where I want to be a buyer. In all reality, I'm going to use that trend line along with that kind of hidden channel line, right, as my battle zone. I also have that reversal line at 21.5, a beautiful level there at 20.2. I'm not sure if we'll get there or not, but those are my levels of support. I want to see a pullback and a retest of that high. Pullback and a retest of the high. What if price goes higher here? What if it goes higher? Be careful, right, because you can see the top of that range is right there. So if we keep going higher, guess what? We're going to just adjust the channel. Right? Adjust it. Bring it tighter, right? Bring it narrower. Okay? Bring it narrower. Doesn't matter to me. But when it pulls back to that low, I'm looking for the entry pattern around the low, right, of that channel. Pretty simple idea, right? When the market reverses, hidden channel, 2-legged pullback, right? 2-legged pullback. That'll usually go below the moving average. Below the moving average, look for a seller failure into buyer strength. Buyer strength gives us the pullback, right? So failure, strength, right? Pullback up to retest that high. Okay, how do we turn bearish? Anytime the bulls are in control, the bears have to take control. Okay, think of it almost. The analogy that I use is, or the way that I describe it is, for a market to turn directions, okay, the other side has to take it. Okay, it's kind of like. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. It's not really like American football because the fumble doesn't really work in this situation. But the reality is the buyers have control, the sellers have to take it. Okay? If the buyers lose, they can't lose control, right? The buyers here cannot lose it. They can't just whoops and dropped it, right? They can't lose it. Okay? The sellers have to take it, right? It wasn't until we saw the buyers grab it, this market became bullish. Right? This market did not become bullish when the market tried twice to retest the low. That isn't a bull market at that point. Once we see that strong move up after the 2 try, now we know the buyers, they grabbed it, right? They've taken control. So how do we turn bearish? The buyers have, no, not the buyers give it, the sellers would take it, right? 3 things we look for. 1, 2, 3, strength. 1, pullback. 2, 3. Continuation, right? Strength, pullback, strength. Okay, strength, pullback, strength. Most important thing is once I see that market tearing off the downside, now connect those lows. Anytime you see a reversal, what do we look for? You got it, hidden channel. It's a beautiful thing. And it will usually come off that area of resistance right around the high of that channel. All right, guys? Obviously, I'm going over the basic strategy with you guys today. I'll incorporate a faster time frame, short-term analysis, and the proper entry trigger tomorrow in the trade room. All right, now, I talked a little bit of smack about the S&P today, right? The only market that was even more disappointing was the euro. The euro is coming out of Draghi's speech last week, right? If you recall, Draghi spoke last week, and he talks a big game. He talks a big game. I'm not sure how many folks believe him, but he talks a pretty good game, and he really did a good job at pummeling the euro last Thursday, right? That big drop was from his speech last Thursday. We also have rollover coming this week. I think it's scheduled for, I think it was, what was it, the 16th? What is it, 12th? So at some point later on this week, we might see rollover on the euro. So I'm not sure whether this is in kind of the wake of Draghi last week, or whether it's ahead of rollover, or what the hell's going on right now. But this market was slow. It was slow on Friday. It was slow today as well. And pretty much what you're seeing right now is a bear spike and range pattern. This bear spike and range tells me to look for selling opportunities up above the range highs using the 2-try rule, and buyer failures around the moving average tomorrow. Okay, so 2 things I'm watching for tomorrow. Hidden channel, right, and that reversal line right around 23,750. Okay, both those levels are excellent levels of resistance for selling opportunity. Now, this market could easily turn bullish because you'll notice we have that rising support trend line. And as we talked about on the crude oil chart tonight, anytime there's no direct line to get back to those lows, we run the risk of kind of frustrating the sellers, right? Because you can already see the bears, they had their lower low from last Friday. They tried once, right? They tried twice, right? And now all we need is to see some strength from those buyers to take control. But that doesn't look like strength. That does not look like a market that says, woohoo, sellers fail, let's party. It doesn't look like a bullish market. Right? Those big green candles, that big green wick, the big wick at the top of that candle that can speak, right? That does not look like a market that says, we're free, let's do this, right? That does not look like that market, okay? So we need some more proof. Now, if this would have been boom, 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 I would say, oh, hell yeah, we're bullish, right? Line this bad boy up, right? Give me some spike, give me some 2-legged pullback, right? Let's get paid tomorrow, okay? That's the plan if price does turn bullish here. And hope we do get it, because we need something to change here right now, because this euro looks like, again, disinterested, right? I'm sure my wife will correct me on the grammar on that. Is it disinterested? Is it uninterested, right? Is it anti-interested? My mom was a school teacher. I should know this, but I'm running. Give me a comment below the video here. What is it? Is it disinterested? Is it uninterested? That's my 2 options, uninterested and disinterested. My wife told me last night it's disinterested. I don't believe her. Maybe get some grammar experts here on the newsletter. Bottom line is the bulls need to take control, right? They're going to show us, maybe we'll get some interested traders tomorrow. Aha! Got that one right. Okay, so now, got a trading range, right? Trading range. So important you go back and look at the very beginning of that range, right? Because that range was formed at the very tail end of Thursday night, right? It wasn't Friday. The range was actually formed around midnight, right, Thursday night. Okay, that range, you'll notice, right, bottom, top, right, there's your range right there. Might even be a little bit narrower than I have right now. They went lower, 2-try, back up in. Went higher, 2-try, back down in. Okay, same plan for tomorrow as we have for the S&P. 1-try, 2-try, back down in. The hard part's going to be we have that rising support trend line, right? So make sure you get it nice and high here. Okay, so you want to get it like this, right? 1-try, 2-try, failure, right? Back down in, right? Selling off of that level of resistance, right? Selling off of this level of resistance. The problem, though, is you're not going to be able to just sell it as it goes higher, right? Because that might be a reversal. So you don't want to sell it as it goes higher. So my plan is, as it goes higher, if this thing just tears everyone's face off and just runs higher, you know what's going on, right? It's a bull market. But if we go up just above that channel, moving average comes over, right? I would look for those buyers to show proof. Then I can be a buyer, right? Or wait for them to try. Failure. Don't sell down here, right? Don't sell down there because that trend line, right? And then up, back, down from there, right? Use that as a resistance to sell off it. Okay? Just be careful with that rising support trend line. It's not going to be easy, right? It's not going to be easy, right? So 1-try, 2-try, back down. Again, keep in mind, you could look for this lower too. 1-try, 2-try, back up. That will work as well. Or it is a see ya, suckers, Nice strong move up, hidden channel, right? Buying off that low for a move back up to retest the Draghi highs up around that 24.50 area. All right, guys, stay away from the middle, sell high, buy low. Again, don't predict those reversals, right? And yeah, drop me a comment. Is it disinterested or is it uninterested or anti-interested? Whatever it is, I hope you found this information interesting tonight. A little play on some grammar here tonight. Hope you guys found the video valuable. Hope you learned a lot and hope you use this information to earn a lot tomorrow. I'm going to put all the links in the description of the YouTube video, but make sure you join us on the free trial, right? If you think this is great information, right, I give away more for free on my newsletter than most places charge thousands of dollars for, right, behind the curtain type of training, okay? I've got so much more good knowledge where that came from. I've been doing this for a very, very long time. Join that free trial. I would love to share my life's work with you as a brand new client. And while you're here, don't forget, grab our beginner, intermediate, or advanced classes. We've got great flexible payment options right now on our advanced membership class, right? And don't forget to hit me up on live support or drop me a comment right in the comment section on YouTube if you have any questions along the way. We are almost out of the woods for daylight savings time, all right? Get some sleep tonight, will you? And come back and see me again tomorrow. And it's okay, your dog, yeah, the puppy will eventually catch up and kind of join you as well. But boy, oh boy, I know how difficult it is with pets at home, right, during daylight savings time as well, right? Everything kind of gets thrown off tilt there for a little while. Guys, way overdue here for the video tonight. Thank you for your patience of being here with me. Thanks for sticking around. Now get out of here. Get some rest. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time. If not, be well out there. Be nice to each other, will you? And be here next time. Adios, amigos.